6, and does not look like we have quorum, but as we're not conducting business, we can just proceed. So, and is there any correspondence? We can't technically approve the minutes. Is there any correspondence?
Before you move on to correspondence, just do the roll call just so we know who's here.
Okay. Could we do roll call, please?
So,
yeah, Chris Dash, I'm here.
Okay.
Caitlin Demoski, I'm here.
And then we have guests Jody Swanson, and we have Stuart and myself. What else am I supposed to do?
We can't approve the minutes since we don't have a quorum yet. If another member joins, we can do that. There's no correspondence at this point in time. The Friends of State Parks, if they would have been on, we might have had persons to be heard. You have no old business, and so I think
there is one old business I want to bring up, actually. Which I meant to start a group chain and I forgot, but I will do that after this meeting, is about the event that we wanted to hold, and that I meant to bring up last month. So where can you refresh my memory where we left off? Did we say January? What day did we decide? January?
I believe
First Saturday.
January 4th.
Yeah, January 4th.
Okay. I'll start an email then so that we can start circulating correspondence. I think Thanksgiving time is probably a good time to start getting that out there. I don't think we're too late or anything, but.
No.
What is that event? Can I ask?
You can ask. I don't really have a good answer yet.
Awesome.
So since Jody is, for the first time, any of our park managers are year round, she never had to participate in any of these, but it's the first day hike type events. And so state parks, various parks and various cabs and friends groups will host a day out on one of the trails. And for us, that would mean a ski trail. And I believe we talked about doing something up at Independence Mine, because really there's more room there and all sorts of trails for people to get on. But, we could do it at Gold Mint, but that's a singular trail. So, and really there's not much room anywhere else for that. So that's the gist of it. And we would just be looking as a region to host, something.
I think Wendy also had a suggestion for a lake, and I can't remember if it wasn't Matanuska. I can't remember where it was.
It might have been Matt Lake, but I'd have to go back to everything. Hi, who just joined us?
Steve.
Hey, Steve. We've already started the meeting. We don't have a quorum, but we are going forward with some presentations, and you'll see that on the screen. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I've been trying to get it on Teams. I haven't used it for a while, and I was unable to get on, so I'm on the phone.
Okay. All right.
And
so, yeah.
And you are and with?
So, yes. My name is Steve Charles. I live in Willow. I am chair of the Friends of State Parks, Matsu. It's a nonprofit 501c3 that's been going on for 24 years. And our mission is to protect and enhance recreational, historical, and natural resources within the state parks units within the Matsu Borough and Copper River Basin. And we've sort of newly constituted ourselves. We've got 5 board members, 4 of which live in Willow. And we're just basically getting like I say, reconstituting ourselves, getting organized a little bit, and I think in the next couple of months we'll be taking more of an active role. Yeah.
Excellent.
Great.
Welcome.
And this is the chair.
I am the chair of this board. My name is Chelsea Cassell. And then
Yep.
we've got Chris Dash and Caitlin, is it Demoski?
Yep, that's correct.
Demoski, those are two of our board members. We're missing a few board members today, but we also have Jody and Stuart from State Parks.
Yes. So I'm listening in and answering. You know, our board has been wanting to, collaborate with your board, and we're hoping to get some board member on our board with your board, so we can better collaborate. So that's
Great.
where we are right now. Yeah.
Well, this is also a good time for you to join, because we were just talking about setting up an event at the, it's like the first hike of the year kind of thing, but it'll probably be a ski. So we're just talking about setting that event up first weekend in January. So that could be something that we can start collaborating on.
Okay, we actually talked a little bit about ourselves. Out here, we've done that before in collab. Well, I don't know if it was the first Saturday. We did have collaboration with the Massachusetts Parks Foundation a few years ago, which was really fun and successful. It was at the Nancy Lake State Recreation Area Winter Trailhead, and the feature was opening up a new Rhine Lake cabin that was a couple miles down the road.
Nice.
So
Nice.
yeah, that was fun. So we've done sort of stuff like that, events like that before. It's for fun.
We were talking about doing that at Hatcher Pass potentially. We still haven't nailed it down. We're just kind of in the early stages, but hopefully we can get that figured out in the next week and a half.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we have, I'll take that up with the board. Let's see, our next meeting, and I should say this, our next meeting is going to be an annual meeting, because we have some things to do, like bylaw changes and things like that. So that's going to be on December 2nd at 11 a.m. at Willow Library. We're far away from Hatcher Pass. I must say that I think our agenda is a little bit more oriented, since 4 of our 5 board members live in Willow. It's sort of the upper Susitna Valley. So, but yeah, I'll certainly mention the Hatcher Pass first Saturday event and see if we can get some people down there to help you out.
Yeah, do we have your contact information? Do we have your email?
Stuart
I
certainly
certainly do.
Okay, great.
Steve, are you okay with me sharing the one for Friends of State Parks with Chelsea, and she can include you in that conversation?
Please do, sure.
Great. Okay, so did we cap off the old business? I'll start a chain with Wendy, as well as the rest of our board, and Steve, and we can go from there and hopefully get that kind of figured out, what we need to do before Thanksgiving, so we can start trying to attract crowd.
Yeah, and I guess from our perspective, staff-wise, I mean, we're open to whatever location will work for everybody and do something. Hatcher Pass is always busy, so, it just depends on what the flavor is that folks would like to do. So.
Okay. Sounds good. On to new business, which we have Jody here to speak about. Yeah.
Me. What do you want me to do?
Jody. So, for the board, what I will be asking of each of my park managers over the next few meetings is to give pertinent updates to you of what's happening in their particular locale. So, Vic Stankulescu will be talking about the Nancy Lake area, and then Bill and/or Eric will then talk about the Denali State Park area. what I wanted, so this gives you sort of some updates from the field about some projects or priorities or challenges that are coming up. And what I asked Jody to talk about today was sort of a follow-up. We've given you some updates on the Independence Mine Preservation Project. And of course, Chelsea is on, the steering committee for that. But what I wanted her to walk through, and I sent an email out, and sorry, Steve, I didn't send it to you because it was just before the meeting. Was a report that she's been putting together to look at how we continue to look at opportunities for funding to address the rest of the restoration project. And because the Helmsley Foundation grant will only go so far, and there's still more to do. And so she's just going to do a quick rundown of that. And then I was going to do a quick presentation of that I had given at the Alaska Trails Land Manager Forum, sort of on, and again, this is focused on the Hatcher Pass area of some trail issues and where we want to be going with that. So, Jody, I can scroll for you if you want to give sort of a rundown.
Okay. What the current grant is covering right now at Independence Mine is of the buildings with painting and preservation on the exteriors. There will be limited work on fourth building, but that leaves, there's 8 total that are still. This project has many layers, but our main concern and priorities are doors and windows for security measures on those remaining buildings, along with paint on those buildings in order to help preserve them. Right now, we have wind damage. Sorry, the dogs are playing. We have wind damage that's stripping all the paint off the buildings, which is compromising the integrity of those buildings to continue standing. I'm saying we, Stuart, you're my we. What we're envisioning is we need to preserve the rest of those buildings before they collapse. And ideally, part of this whole plan would be the pedestrian bridges and walkways that are up there. Those are also starting to deteriorate, which is going to cause it problems, so the pedestrians can't even get to the buildings or the trails. Right now, that assay building bridge is, I don't even want to, it's a nightmare. Along with this project, we also have all the objects and artifacts up that are housed up and around the mines. Those have never been inventoried. This summer, I had people try to carry off artifacts and try to put them into the car because there was no sign telling them they couldn't take things. We don't know what's up there. We don't know what goes missing. And I guarantee you things are going missing. That's another part of the project, is to start with the educational, that we're putting that as the educational budget. That would take, a curator of some type to come in and contract out that work. And because of the limited amount of time, it's going to take a few years to get that done. Also part of the project, which no one really kind of knows about, is we have archival material that is housed at Finger Lake headquarters in our basement. I think we have close to 42 cubic square feet of material. We just learned also that an agreement was made a long time ago with UA Archival Consortium Library that they are housing 62 cubic square feet of our archival materials, and they're taking care of that for us. We don't by any means want that back, because I don't think we have the wherewithal to take care of that. But we do want to keep the stuff that we do have. I'm going to start working on that this winter to try to organize that and trying to get that into a past perfect software program that a lot of museums and small collection houses use. That will take a lot of time also, just because I don't have time. And I do have the amazing help from Wasilla Museum women that work at that museum that will come and train me and then help me get started. But that also needs an expert. That's not my expertise, but funding for that would be lovely. The dream would be we don't want to be a museum by any means, but we would like to have an immersive and educational experience for people. None of the interpretive signs or any of the collection has been worked on, brought up to date, added to, or on any sort of modern display. I don't think anything's been worked on for 25 years. Ideally, it would be lovely to have an interior space in order to do that up at the mine. Look, and I like to dream big because I like to fall short. It's great. But ideally, to work on interiors of 2 of those buildings, ideally bunkhouse 1, only because it's smaller, which means it would be cheaper to redo. So the interior of the 1st floor and 2nd floor, but the big dream would be the mess hall, because that is one of the most beautiful buildings up there. The interior of the 1st floor and possibly one of the apartments on the 2nd floor would be a great place in order to take people through and also have a place where people could gather indoors up there. So that's part of our project. The big pie in the sky dream would be to do green energy. A lot of our funding and not our funding, but a lot of our expenses goes to running the generator at the mine, which is a huge cost to heat and run electricity through those buildings. So green energy up there, whether it's solar power, we have hydraulic power up there we can tap into. So that needs to be researched and looked at funding. I don't know if I missed anything.
Let's go through the actual document here in terms of what's left in the original preservation work.
Okay, excuse me, my dog has to go out for just one moment. Look, it's not about me. No, not sure.
I am looking through the doc on my screen. I was wondering if some of those things were mentioned. It looks like
Mostly this report, the first part is the preservation part.
Right.
And
The current funded preservation project, the things that need to be finished are the manager's house is going to have some foundation work, paint, a new roof, storm windows. Bunkhouse 2 is going to get some minor foundation work, the new deck, proper deck drainage, new stairs and security doors. Bunkhouse 1 will get security doors and new stairs. And there's a small amount of funds left over to do some exterior work at the mess hall and install some security doors. I don't know if we're getting stairs for that. Maybe some replacement stairs, but.
So what you see on the screen right now is what would be needed to complete everything after the monies have been expired in the current grant. So
so it's that 2.2 plus the 1.3.
correct.
This is okay. All right.
So we worked with the contractor, Kukar, and he gave us the numbers because when they originally bid, as you may recall, Chelsea, that we had to scale it down to what we could afford. But this is what's going to be remaining to address. And there were some buildings that weren't even in their original scope,
Yeah.
such as the schoolhouse, the commissary, things like that. But even within the scope, there's not enough money to finish doing all of the protective windows. We've prioritized first story, second story, and then the very top story is not going to get hit on a couple of these, with the hopes that people aren't trying to aim for those windows. And
Does this- Go ahead.
and then there's the door replacements for a couple of the locations that just in the current scope of work weren't going to get covered.
Does this 2.2 include, I see some mess hall line items. Does it include getting the mess hall to a point, Jody, that you were talking about, or
No,
not? No,
the
this
first
is
part-
really just the hardening and
The
exterior paint.
This does not include the interior
Okay.
redo. The interior building project, we still would need to price out. So we'd
Okay.
have to look at the interior, what that would cost to fix up. And at that point, realistically, I would love for this to be done tomorrow. But I also understand this is going to take time. I have a huge date in here, and look, I've edited this a couple times, so I might have lost this date. But the big date that we need to focus on, and this is my big push, is 2030. That is our 50th year anniversary that State Parks took this management of this property over. And it also kind of starts lining up with the 100-year anniversary of the mine kind of starting production and being kind of successful in what they were doing as far as getting gold out of the ground. Matsu Trails and Parks has offered, Taylor has been kind enough to offer to work with us. We'd like to start a campaign this summer with, she said she would do a special, account for us and gather funds for us if we can collect them. We decided that she and I would work this winter on trying to do a campaign that would start and push this summer with a QR code at the mine for public donations. She won't put it on the main page, but she will give us a little drop down tab so we can start working on, this is the project that we're working on and this is how much it's going to cost. So we can put these numbers out there and people can start donating and seeing where their money goes.
Great.
So $5, someone donates $5, it's more than I got. So.
I remember talking to Taylor a bit this summer about potentially applying for additional grants through the Trails and Parks, right?
Right. I had applied, I don't know how much we want to get into this. I had applied for a museum grant last spring through Museums Alaska. And I had to do work on that before I could get that grant. The problem with that then became they were taking grant applications in the fall and then in the spring. The problem with that is I found out right before the fall deadline that they are doing away with their spring grant applications. So they're starting to reel back on funding. Rasmussen Foundation is the ones that funded them. They are starting to pull back on their funding. So I'm a little bit apprehensive about where we can find funding for the inventory of like the collections and objects or the archives. Point, I am having a meeting later this week, so hopefully I can get some ideas of where there might be more funds for that stuff.
Right.
And so she's outlined and she had talked about now the cataloging and inventory, and then the initial part of the archives themselves. So again, this all will, you've got this. We can walk through more of it, but and we can come back to this at another meeting if you want as well, once you've had time to digest this. She's been working on it, for many, many days. So, but that would get, yeah, and we don't have anything about what the interior building would cost, and we also have to be cognizant of what the fire marshal will say, because we can't even put a sprinkler system in these buildings because we don't have the well capacity or anything to handle that. So anything that we do are just for temporary short, intervals of people. But to get them up to, a nicer standard that people could actually get a better feel for what the accommodations were like there. Um, so with that
Yeah,
said,
aren't there exemptions as well for historical?
boy, you may not have been in some of the meetings where where Connor read me the riot act about, the fire marshal, but
I know, but Connor, but he's reading the rules. Then there's exceptions to the rules.
true, but we haven't even begun to delve into that, because really the first,
Yeah.
I mean, if we can get the exteriors done by the end of this summer, I'll be super happy. The with the exception of the parts that we, need to still follow up on, of the rest of the windows and doors. Um, but the interior, that's going to take some more work to get us past or get any exemptions on that, because they were pretty hard about that. And, I really can't answer that one fully for you.
I did put, pie in the sky dates as to when the work would be completed. So I gave us 10 years for the interiors. Trying to be realistic.
Yeah.
I don't know if realistic or not, but I'm trying.
I've got a meeting with women in construction on Monday. I can put this in front of a few people if it's at a point where you're ready for that, just to see if anybody has any funding ideas. All of them work for, the various local construction companies from, I don't know, Davis, Alaska, all the big guys down here. So I can give them a little bit of an intro if you're okay with that. We can also wait for another time to do that.
I won't speak for Jody, but please.
This is going to be this is going to take more than just a small community to make this project happen.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. I mean, yeah.
It's a lot of money, but really not a ton of money. Do you know what I mean? We're not asking for $50 million.
I think we'd be surprised.
Yeah. Wait till you get to the interior part.
Exactly. I'm seeing this.
That part I understand, but
Yeah.
My green energy project isn't in here, and that place is gonna need. It's just gonna need work. If you're looking at all the old stuff at the water tunnel and all that, I don't know.
Okay.
That's beyond my brain right now. I'm just trying to keep the buildings up.
Perfect.
So
Jody, this is great. Great job on this.
Thank you.
Any questions for Jody from Steve or Caitlin or Chris?
Just kind of what or me, I'm just still gonna keep talking. So the main asks right now are funding resources, right? Is there anything else?
I didn't hear an ask, but would it make sense to elicit, to ask for volunteer help with the documents, the bulk of the documents, just putting them in some kind of order for you? What would make sense there?
That I have to kind of dip my toe in the water on that first before I can figure out what's involved. So I'm hoping to get that going between now and the end of the year. I have to get some stuff kind of set in place, the software purchased, and kind of get up to speed on how all that works. So then I can, get trained myself and then train others. So at that point, I might be asking for volunteer help.
Okay.
So at this point, is there any ask for any volunteer help, or we're just looking for funding sources right now?
Just want money right now.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I mean, this is all stuff I'm just kind of getting up to speed on and starting to work on over the winter. I think once I get in with Taylor and talk to her about how we're going to start the campaign, there might be room for volunteers there. There definitely will be room for volunteers as soon as I can get a grip on the archival material, and then just trying to find funding either for the construction or the collections management at the mine. That part, the mine part is tricky on the collections part, only because there's such a small window to work up there. It's the same with, but because there's such a small window with access and getting at the materials, that's the part.
Sort of lost you there at the very end, but so I think once Jody has a few more things lined up, you'll be hearing back from her in one of these meetings. But I think, and I'm just going back to this doors and windows, because for us to finish up security of the buildings first is our biggest priority. And so that 500 grand just to continue what we already have, the prescription, we don't need ECI, we don't need other people, engaged. We need the funds to allow the contractor to finish as more scope, and that's our priority, because that is what's going to keep people out of the buildings so that we can preserve whatever artifacts are there and what have you, until we get that done, because the exterior paint and things like that, we can get to those. And I mean, even one of the small buildings, not the commissary, that's a dangerous one, but the schoolhouse, or one of the other buildings that's small, that you can get volunteers to paint that once we get things prepped properly and what have you. But when you get to foundations and things like that, we're back to contractors. But again, and the windows and the doors have to be the contractor. So we just really don't, there's some things where volunteers might work for a painting party, but I don't want to, we can give them one building or something and go for broke. But the rest, we really need to, continue to focus with a, KUKAR, or if everything goes out and we don't have the funding and we have to rebid, that's, something else. But this is the numbers that they've been giving us, based on current costs that we're already working with. So
The 505, how much of this we already have plans for? The 505 plus the 583, we don't need anything. So we don't need anything from ECI for any of this 2.2?
no, not really, because see, everything ECI already went through and did all the engineering on this. These
There's
are
no
all
plan.
items.
Yeah, okay.
These were all items that, I mean, So the exterior painting, I mean, we already know what the paint has to be. We couldn't do the mess hall, even though it's in this round of projects, because it was just so massive, and all the other costs for the other three buildings were, piling up, and we needed to get those done. Um, when you get to the mess hall foundation, that was just some additional work that needed to be done on some strapping and things like that that they wanted to see. But for the most part, all of this, you know, was, or a lot of it, I should say, was we had hoped to get it there, but we also knew that the 1.3 was never going to get us to the end,
Right.
the end zone. And,
Right.
as we know, we don't even have enough to finish all of the windows and doors. So that is a number one only priority. Every dollar we can squeak out of, the 1.3 has to go to that. But once we're done with that, there is nothing other than, we could get any engineer to work with us on pedestrian bridges. I mean, that doesn't have to be ECI. I mean, volunteers could help us with, dealing with that replacement. But the rest of this is already part of the package. We already know what needs to get done.
So these are dollars ready to spend. The 2.2, as soon as we get it, could be
Yep.
project.
Yeah. Yeah. If somebody came up with 2.2 next week, I would just I would just roll it over and do a big change order for KUKAR and keep going.
Yep. These numbers, like particularly the foundations and stuff, is there any contingency in here, or is it all just the estimate?
I did not put a contingency fund in there. I know that I need one, but I figured if I put this out to the public, it would be hard for them to say, I want to donate to a contingency fund.
For sure. But
I felt they would, so it's not in there. I felt they'd want to see where their money's going and exactly the project it's being spent on. So that's why I didn't put it in. I know we need one.
I will insert that I am pretty sure Lucas also made sure to, when we asked him for numbers, he wouldn't have not padded it a bit just to give us some there.
Yeah, he gave me a new, so
okay.
that went up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, what I kind of think of though is like pre-construction, pre-design is around 30%. And then as we get closer with design, it's around 10%. So I don't know, somewhere around there is probably what I'd expect, especially with what happened already on that project.
But again, all of this was already designed in. So like the mess hall foundation, ECI's already covered that. It's already been covered in the skirting. Stair replacements already dealt with because that's in plans. It's just we don't have the money to do it. Same with the bunkhouse. So the only thing that they did not do was this, in the plans was the fourplex, the commissary, the schoolhouse, and the assay office. But that's painting.
Right. Just painting.
And we already know how that has to go. We know the colors, we know everything. So that doesn't require anybody. The windows, all of that's already in the current design docs. So it's just continuing with what we're doing.
Right. Yeah, but they find rot and exactly what already it's like I get it, but I'm saying at least 10% here.
Chelsea,
that's
bring it down.
All I'm looking at every day is how much contingency I'm losing on these jobs that I'm already on, and I can't shake it.
No, I understand because I haven't talked to Lucas about that. I'm like, your numbers seem kind of low. So, I mean, we could just build in the contingency fund by bumping these up by 10 to 15%.
Yeah, I think by 10% for sure. I
totally agree, Chelsea. You gotta have contingency.
Yeah.
Right.
Things pop up.
Well, we can just multiply. We can just multiply them, you know,
Yep.
and do a new round of numbers. But again,
Yep.
let's not get hung up on that.
No.
This is just the beginning conversation.
Yep. Cool. Well, great job, Jody. This looks good.
Thank you.
All right. Are we able to move on?
Let's do it.
Okay. So I'm just going to do a quick run through, and hopefully this stays on this screen. And can you see the Hatcher Pass?
Great
Okay.
picture.
Well, you can thank Jody. She took that little inflatable all the way up there. And for Steve, that's the final install of the composting latrine. So what I had been asked to do at the give a presentation at Alaska Trails was sort of what are the things that we've got going that we've had go well, and mostly what are the challenges. And they specifically asked me to focus on Hatcher Pass. So, you know, one of the things, the successes that we had was working with Alaska Trails because they brought out volunteers to work on the Goldmint Trail. And as we've talked about, you know, my goal is for getting that widened out and so that we can be grooming it for skiers and walkers and fat bikers. But you know, so they've been instrumental this summer. Jody's been working with Ben from Alaska Trails, and they've been doing a great job working on projects for us. Challenges, no matter how much money we've put into it, and we've had a couple of RTP grants, and we've done other, you know, trail tread construction. You know, we still have boardwalks that need to get replaced, more brushing, and, you know, additional trail tread projects. Some of these can be volunteer projects. Some of them may go to RTP where my goal is, instead of my park managers managing trail crews, is that we're going out and we're actually contracting, whether it's with Alaska Trails, SCA, or one of the other, you know, trail groups out there. But for some of these projects, some of these things could be good volunteer projects that we coordinate with Alaska Trails. They've been incredible, you know, for us. The other piece that Alaska Trails went up and worked on with some funding from Matsu Trails and Parks Foundation was continuing to work on our switchbacks up at Reed Lakes. Those are notoriously bad and muddy, and so they were doing some, you know, rock work to try to harden those, but we have an awful lot more that needs to get done. And so hence what the next challenges are is all the braiding and social trails that have developed, whether over on Gold Cord or whether it's on Reed Lakes. What we want to be doing is to harden these trails and then start to rehab these social trails, whether it's reseeding or I like cobbling them so that people will not walk on them because it will break your ankle. But, you know, we'll have to get a pretty hefty amount of crews to be working on things like that. Another success, and again, this is the first composting latrine that has been installed and in the Matsu region, and we're super hopeful that we're going to be able to be putting these in other locations as well. And so for this one, there's a liquid diverter, and so the solid waste goes into, you know, this area here. After Jody consulted with Toilet Tech, you know, we figured out that we didn't have to bury that thing, you know, all the way up to its neck. And she found a really nice solid rock to put, you know, the one area to put the area out here on. where the seat and everything is. And then most of the composting bin is, underground. And if all goes as they tell us it will, every year or so we go up and we rake it, and maybe add a little more material, in terms of to help it digest, and then we just let it go. There are national parks that use these up in Glacier and other areas, and when it all is said and done, they pack it out on horses, and it's dried and it's taken care of. We don't have horses, but we'll cross that bridge when we actually have enough to deal with. So I just wanted to share that with you. We're with the new trail that just went up on Curry Ridge. I'm working with Toilet Tech. I've got a couple of quotes to get a couple of these, but that will actually have full walls, just because of the Curry Ridge is so exposed, from a standpoint of it just getting beaten to death by the winds up there. We will be looking at a little different setup up there. But what this spring we'll go up and we'll, or I should say summer when the snow is out, we'll go up and see how this puppy survived, and continue to monitor and see how it goes, because it really is the first time that we're, able to work with that. I
So,
would go
Stuart,
ahead, Chris.
does it have sawdusty wood that you put a handful in every time you poop, or what's the?
Nope.
No, it's just pure poop
So
and
a conveyor belt carries it from here into this, and you do put some organic material in there. But with the liquid being diverted, which is what causes it not to decompose, um, this is supposed to be something that is supposed to begin organically just decomposing on its own.
no, all right. The ones I'm
Um,
familiar with, they always take a handful of stuff and put it in there after you poop, and that's how
yeah,
they with it.
but those don't have the conveyor belt and stuff. And so that's what, and one of the things, it will have to get cleaned a little differently, but this is an experiment. We've never, trying to dig a pit latrine up here. I mean, just installing this took you how many days, Jody?
Three
Three.
days.
So, we want, putting in pit latrines takes even longer. And up in that particular country, as you can see, it's all rock.
And
Been up
once
there.
I sent the pictures to Toilet Tech, they did tell me that they have modified this design now. So I think it just goes in completely flat, but I don't know if I didn't look too close at that.
No, you still have to have there's still a tank thing, but either way,
Doesn't matter.
yeah, doesn't matter. So that's what we're aiming to have installed in more locations, just for backcountry, because we just can't, if we have to go and dig pit toilets every, couple years, or I'm hoping, and this is what the whole idea was, is that this gives us a more permanent solution. Worst case scenario, we pack it in some bags and helo it out. I can assure you that will be easier than the 250-gallon full tank that we just took out of Skinny Lake, at a cost of a little over $5,000. And that's up on Kasugi, Ridge. So,
Wow.
but the main pieces that I was trying to, that this group can look at as well. And again, you're going to get presentations from each of the areas, But just to give you an idea of the challenges that we have coming up. So whether it's projects that are going to be put in front of you, or you've got ideas on how to, address this, or participating with Alaska Trails, excuse me, there's a myriad of, things. I'm just trying to put information in front of you as we, get going and running into next season.
Yeah, great. Interesting.
And if you're really interested, there is a Facebook page just for this latrine.
What is it? I am interested.
Supposed to go up, use the latrine and take a selfie.
What's the Facebook page?
I think it's Reed Lake.
Sorry, I don't do social media stuff.
I'll have to look. So far, the only two people on there are Bill from Denali State Park and myself. It seems to
Okay.
be a page because someone started it and we put our selfies on there, and then no one else went and used the toilet. Great. It has less poop for me to rake next year. So I'm
Yeah.
pretty excited about that.
Great.
But yeah, I will find that as we move on.
Yep. Is there anything else that we have on the?
Nope, that was it. So you can adjourn when you're ready. Unless Steve or Caitlin or anybody else has a comment or question.
Yeah, just a comment. Great job. This is all. It's nice to see everything in one plan. So thanks for sending that document, and I look forward to checking out the new latrine this coming summer.
Yeah. The name of that Facebook group is the Upper Reed Lake Outhouse Selfies.
Upper Reed Lake Outhouse Selfies. Okay. Upper.
So I expect every cab member to get
Yep.
up there and then and have a selfie so that we can continue to promote it.
Hey,
Definitely.
Stuart, would you post in the chat the name or maybe a website for the vendor? I'd like to take a look at how they do it.
Oh, Toilet Tech?
Yeah.
Well,
And I that picture with the unicorn is now on their website.
Really? Nice job.
Yeah.
Thanks, Stuart.
And then our local guy that goes up and does mountain climbing and rock climbing wrote a book on all the places to go in Hatcher Pass. So that's the book I used that everyone had to read while they're on the toilet.
Oh.
Yeah.
Man, so great. So
Yeah.
much about cinematic value. Great. Well, okay, so to recap today's meeting, ask is funding for Hatcher Pass and set up that event in January, right? Am I missing anything?
correct. Nope, that would be it.
All
I
right.
don't know
Well,
where
I
they
guess
put your picture, Jody, but I don't see it on the main page.
Oh no, you have to get through some of the things to find it.
products maybe. Conveyor toilet. Yeah, let's see.
No.
Well, I'm sure we'll find
Yeah.
it. Well, then I guess we can adjourn right exactly at 7. Thank you
Perfect.
for your time, everybody. Steve, thanks for joining us as well.
Thanks, Jody.
See you next
Yeah,
month.
thank you.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye.